Who's our enemy? Which one's our enemy? Which one's our friend? We don't know. Pick a side. We're fighting both of them.
Mr. Roman, are you aware that we are sending $40 million a week to the Taliban?
Yes, sir.
Can you name other instances of foreign aid going to terrorist organizations?
We have assisted al-Shabaab in Somalia. There's been instances of the Hamzi network in Sudan, Hamas, Islamic Jihad, Hezbollah, Kataib al-Hezbollah, Hayat Tahrir al-Shams in Syria. Dozens of terror organizations have received indirect assistance from U.S. foreign aid.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, I have heard some crazy stuff in my life that our government has done. Some crazy stuff. And we get mad. We get upset about it. But do we do anything about it? No, we never do anything about it except complain. We moan and complain. And that does nothing. That does nothing at all. But what I heard just yesterday, coming from the committee, from the board, testifying under oath to congressmen, that America is doing around the world, funding terrorists. When I heard that, and not just one place, all over the world, we're doing it. How can somebody not go ballistic over this? I'm going to show it to you. And you're going to, maybe you'll be one of those people who are so desensitized by a corrupt government that it's okay with you. You've heard it a million times and it's no big deal. Well, it's a big deal. I'm an 80s baby. I grew up in the 80s. When something was wrong, we fixed it. What are we doing now? What are we doing now besides moaning and complaining? Ladies and gentlemen, please grab yourselves a drink and get ready to get a stress ball. If you've got a stress ball close, grab it. If you're not getting upset about this, all those things that they told you about America, how great America is, how wonderful it is, the land of the free, the home of the brave, when you realize it's the land of the corrupt, the deep state, the inside abusing all powers, and you realize it's not the people. The people are oblivious. But here comes a time when you quit being oblivious to things, start paying attention. Because if the government gets on the people, the government's always getting on the people. Oh, you've got to stop what you're doing. You got to be. We're police officers all over the place and watching you. But when you find them, it's okay. It's us. We're doing it. We're the CIA. We're the FBI. We're allowed to do whatever we want in your name with your dollar. Okay, enough ranting and raving. Let's get into this. Like I said, grab yourselves a drink. Once again, if you have a stress ball, it might come in handy. Here we go.
Mr. Roman, are you aware that we are sending $40 million a week to the Taliban?
Yes, sir.
Can you name other instances of foreign aid going to terrorist organizations?
We have assisted al-Shabaab in Somalia. There's been instances of the Hamzi network in Sudan, Hamas, Islamic Jihad, Hezbollah, Kataib al-Hezbollah, Hayat Tahrir al-Shams in Syria. Dozens of terror organizations have received indirect assistance from U.S. foreign aid.
Could you elaborate a little bit on the mechanisms in place that are to stop foreign aid from going to terrorist groups, and why are they not working if we have any in place? Sure. And I would note that these are, you notice these are terrorist weaponry. You see some AKs, SKSs, some snipers, some clips, some clip carriers probably made in China. And I believe these are small landmines here beside right there.
Let's use Gaza as our case study. $2.1 billion in American taxpayers' money to Gaza since October 7th when Hamas invaded southern Israel. USAID money was going in terms of an emergency use authorization to try to go to parties that USAID formerly had a relationship with in the Gaza Strip. They had to have been vetted by OFAC. They should have been vetted against the special designated terror list from the State Department and from other Treasury organizations. Waivers were granted because they said that there was an emergency use to have that money come in to Gaza, thereby jettisoning the usual typical screening procedures. As a result, 90% of aid that was going from the United States by way of its agents in Gaza ended up in Hamas-controlled areas. And this is ridiculous. Essentially, what the U.S. assistance to Gaza did was underwrite the ability for Hamas to survive until the ceasefire was just passed a few weeks ago. There was no strategic thought for it, and there was no screening.
Seems like the emergency might have been armed terror.
Let me stop that for a second. Hear that. The whole time we're in the UN Security Council talking about ceasefire, and we're saying, nope, no ceasefire. Nope, no ceasefire. Nope, no ceasefire. We're literally funding both sides. 90% to Hamas, 10% to whoever. We are keeping this war going, ladies and gentlemen. We are the ones that are funding this war. And we want to talk about Iran. Iran has nothing on the U.S., nothing, compared to what Hamas has been able to do in Israel. And here we are, go Israel, go Israel, go Palestine, go Palestine. Fight each other. Here's some for you and here's some for you. Let's sit back and watch. And our federal dollars are going to this. Corruption. This is corruption at its worst. People are dying. Millions of people are dying. Get that. Because of you, America. Because of you. But no, we're not allowed to talk about that. We're not allowed to investigate that. Or you're un-American. This is Joe Biden administration being uncovered. For all of you Biden heads out there and Kamala heads, this is them. And now it's being uncovered. I'm sorry. We're sorry it has to go like this, but here it goes. This is what you call draining the swamp. And those of you who don't like it, so what? Let's continue this. Let's keep going. It gets even better.
Seems like the emergency might have been armed terrorists to kill civilians. Would that be accurate?
That's accurate, and even more than that, Samantha Powers, the administrator for USAID, was intent on having Israel not be able to defend itself.
To not be able to defend it.
Correct.
Mr. Pramarak, is that correct? How do you say that? Pramarak? I got Burchett, man. Nobody gets mine right, so don't worry about it. What is it? Pramarak?
Perfect.
All right, thanks, brother. How did terrorists exploit our foreign aid loopholes?
Well, we have a lot of our
Can
international.
you pull your mic up? I'm sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
You have international NGOs and UN agencies actively lobby here in Washington, D.C. against vetting policies that would prevent it. I was the senior vetting officer at USAID, and what
Hold
we
on a
did.
second. Did you say United Nations is doing this? The UN?
Sure, everybody who's getting money lobbies here.
That they're lobbying against us. I'm sorry, Mr. Roman.
There's actually someone who used to work for one of those lobbies, the largest NGO lobby, Interaction. One of our co-witnesses here worked for them from 2018 to 2023. USAID effectively self-funds its own external private lobby that then goes back to Congress and asks for more money for USAID.
So the taxpayers fund this lobbyist who's working against American interests.
Correct.
Possibly killing our allies and possibly Americans.
They bring together groups in Washington that oversees work with groups that kill Americans.
Yeah, I don't need a flow chart to show that. I appreciate it.
Listen to that again. Do you want to? I don't think you do. We are paying our own lobbyists to lobby us. We're paying people to come and tell us we need money for these special interest groups and these wars overseas for USA aid so that they can buy weapons. Our enemies can buy weapons. Who's our enemy? Which one's our enemy? Which one's our friend? We don't know. Pick a side. We're fighting both of them. This makes no sense at all. At all. They won't let it make sense for you, to you. Because once you know what they're really doing, you would be off your rockers. Get that stress ball? Yeah. This is your money. Anyway, we're paying lobbyists to lobby us. Not lobbyists to go out and lobby for us. Lobby us so that we fund homemade wars. Both sides. Think about that.
In Washington that oversees work with groups that kill Americans.
Yeah, I don't need a flow chart to show that. I appreciate it. Do you think USAID programs have been aligned with the national security interests of the U.S.?
No, they have not. They have actually helped China.
Mr. Roman?
No.
Okay. How do these programs compromise our national security, Mr. Premack?
They actually push China. They actually push much of the world towards China on the green energy agenda. They push people, ordinary people, billions of people towards China because of the resentment caused by our social re-engineering.
Are we being lobbied by these pro-communist China groups currently?
Well, a lot of these countries don't even have to lobby because they get the money anyway, like South Africa.
Yeah, and in fact, these
Hold on a
lobbyists
second.
have come to
Hold on a second. Are a lot of these people lobbying for pro-China? What I've just heard needs no lobbying. It needs no lobbying against America. You're doing it yourselves. You're lobbying against America yourselves by telling us what you're doing. This isn't Russia or China propaganda. This is American truth coming straight out of Congress, straight out of the House hearing, U.S. House hearing on Doge and federal workers, the committee hearing. This is legit. This is like here in your face. This isn't China telling us this and us saying, no, that's misinformation. That's propaganda. No, this is America telling us this, that this is what we are doing.
Yeah, and in fact, these lobbyists have come to the House and have tried to kill legislation like H.R. 160, which was meant to increase transparency in USAID's funding of overseas organizations.
Is that a current piece of legislation?
That's from the last session.
And give me that number again.
H.R. 160.
And what does it do?
It was meant to give U.S. lawmakers the ability to have higher transparency in terror financing investigations aimed at scrutinizing extremist groups.
Mr. Premack?
We had a regulation before we left in the last administration that anybody who touches money in countries where there's terrorists, those names have to go through databases, terrorist databases. That was overturned by Biden.
Overturned by Biden. Chair Lady, I am.
So you're not allowed to ask questions about where the money's going. Biden overturned it. Okay, who's getting this? Is it going to terrorist organizations? You can't ask. We stopped that bill. You're not allowed to ask where it's going. Stop all the Trump administration bills. You can't ask anything. We're going back in the swamp. we're hiding back in the mud with this. We don't want the American people to know what we're doing. We don't want the world to know what we're doing. Well, world, American people, Americans, world, out there, Africa, Europe, Russia, China, Asia, you wherever you're at, whatever continent or country you are in, listen to this. This is what America's doing, or has been doing. And people get mad at Trump for uncovering this. Trump's exposing it. Here you go, world. Hate me. It's just my opinion. Let me know what yours is. Here we go.
Databases. That was overturned by Biden.
Overturned by Biden. Chair Lady, I am currently 5 seconds, but I wanted to mention something. There's a lot of rhetoric used on this committee, and I would urge my friends on both sides of the aisle, let's stick to the actual information. This rhetoric I've received death threats, and I know the Chair Lady has, and it needs to stop. We need to tone it down. Thank you, Chair Lady, and thank you.
It needs to stop and it needs to tone down. The rhetoric on U.S. aid, cutting U.S. aid organizations. If this was a U.S. aid organization that was funding terrorists, funding wars, and funding coups, which America's been doing for a long time, It's being uncovered. Like it or not, world, the truth is coming out. I mean, the rest of the world has been telling us this. China's been telling us this. Russia's been telling us this. South Africa has been telling us this. India's been telling us this. And the American people have been like, nah, that's not us. We don't do that. Well, now here America's telling you this. Yeah, they were right. They were right all along. Ladies and gentlemen, please like, subscribe, click that notification button so when we get this kind of information out, you can get that information in. Now you know. Have a blessed day. God is good. We'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.